In this episode, take a magic carpet ride with us to a whole new world. We can't grant you 3 wishes, but we will discuss Disney's 1992 animated classic, Aladdin. Stay with us. Greetings, friends. This is the 3324 podcast. My name is Dean Legero, and of course, always by my side is Eric.
Hey, Dean. How you doing?
Good. How's things?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good.
Can't complain.
Good. Awesome. I'm not going to listen if you complain because we have a movie we need to talk about today.
That's right.
Complaints will come at the end of the show.
A rather magical movie at that. So there we go.
Yes.
Yep.
We are talking today about Disney's 1992 animated classic Aladdin, not to be confused with the live action from a few years ago. That may come up at the end of this conversation, but we will stay as far away from it as we can for now. So we're going with the 1992 animated classic. So let's get some stats going. We'll give you the numbers, the nuts and bolts. Came out in 1992, had a $28 million budget, and it ended up making $504.1 million at the box office, which made that not only the most successful Disney film up till that point, it was the most successful film of 1992. So this was a monster page turner in Disney, but for box office at half a billion. I mean, that's absolutely insane. Directed by Ron Clements and John Musker. Now, these two guys are kind of like the Disney A-team. Before this, they had done Great Mouse Detective and Little Mermaid. So they're kind of like, they understand the Disney formula and what needs to get done. And then also the music and lyrics were done by Ashman and Menken. And they had done The Little Mermaid and they had worked on Beauty and the Beast. So you're talking about the top flight talent for Disney working on this film.
Yeah.
You know, not just absolutely. And, you know, kind of, we'll get into what's called the Disney Renaissance because it's really important. And actually the pre-story of the Disney Renaissance is kind of important too, how it relates to Aladdin and then the films that came after it too. Mm-hmm. Did you see this in the theater?
I did not, actually.
No.
I was just thinking about that before we started. I did not see this in the theater. No, I saw Beauty and the Beast. And then for some reason, I didn't get to see it in the theater. I saw Beauty and the Beast, and then I saw Lion King. But I missed this one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the opposite. I missed Beauty and the Beast because I hadn't come to the point in my life where I was an adult that was going to animated films.
Yeah.
So, you know, like Little Mermaid, a lot of people were kind of rumbling about. Beauty and the Beast was gigantic. Mm-hmm. And then by the time Aladdin came out, and Aladdin's kind of a special film in that area too, of how they deal with the comedy and the material. They gear it on 2 levels more than any of the other previous films. So I had seen Aladdin in the theater and was just absolutely blown away. When I rewatched it, I had a smile from ear to ear.
Oh, absolutely.
Just revisiting this film.
That's right. Yep.
I literally turned it on and was smiling the whole time. I'm like, geez, this is just such a great film.
It really is. It really is. We watched it over the weekend with the fam, and I actually, more than smiling, I was actually laughing, which is rare. You know, you go back and watch these films, and it's one of the only Disney movies that I could actually laugh out loud. You know, mostly due to Robin Williams, of course, but yeah, it was
such a treasure. Such a treasure this film was, and kind of lightning in the bottle. And you know, and we'll get to Robin Williams too. I mean, he's a big part of this, but supported by Clements and Musker though. I mean, you've got directors that know this kind of material and know how Disney, the House of Mouse works, and you know, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken who had done stuff before, and they kind of, what they started to do, what they specifically did, is they started to bring the Broadway aesthetic to these films.
Yes,
that treating, and it started with Little Mermaid, is treating these almost like Broadway shows, and where the songs are not just songs to distract, but they tell part of the story. And that's what happens in musicals is you're getting a lot of information from the songs. You're learning a lot about the characters, and done to perfection. Really, I think in Beauty and the Beast really was probably the highlight of it. And then Aladdin does the same thing. No, they give you a lot of information, but they have a lot more fun with it.
It was actually Ashman who pitched it, Aladdin. He's the one that came in and said, we want to do this. And he was thinking of like the genie being sort of a Cab Calloway, sort of like jazzy, like upbeat type of, kind of thing going on, rollicking kind of thing going on, which of course was, I think at the time was rejected, but it ended up kind of being that way anyway. Right. So, it's kind of a showstopper, kind of 1940s, big band type of thing anyway, specifically in the cave when Genie first appears. So that was an interesting little tidbit there.
So this was really kind of a work in progress. There had been a couple of drafts, a couple of different screenwriters had worked on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we need to do is we need to go back to The Great Mouse Detective just briefly, which was what Ron Clements and John Musker had directed, which is there's a period of films known as the Disney Renaissance. And it starts with the Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
But Great Mouse Detective was just before that, and Oliver and Company was just before that. When Great Mouse Detective came out, Disney was getting their clock cleaned by the Don Bluth Studios.
Yeah.
Don Bluth had put out another film with a mouse only a few months after Great Mouse Detective. Right. That was An American Tail.
That's right. Yep.
And it did gangbusters. It blew the doors off. And then Bluth comes back with Land Before Time,
mm-hmm.
which outgrossed, I'm talking worldwide, outgrossed American Tail. And it beat Oliver and Company, but Oliver and Company did better in the States than Land Before Time, but worldwide, Land Before Time was an unmitigated smash. So, Disney kind of, Great Mouse Detective was a minor success for Disney because they were able to do it and pull back the budget and make money on it. So that it kind of got the wheels started. I love Great Mouse Detective, and it's one of the great ones. It's an understated one.
It is, yeah.
It got the ball rolling for them, but the quote unquote Renaissance didn't start until Little Mermaid. And there's actually a film in between, which everybody forgets about, and I forgot about until I was looking at this, but Rescuers Down Under came out.
Which I loved.
Which was a minor...
I thought it was very underrated, but I thought it was gorgeous, that film. It just, the whole look of it, everything was great. I love the story. It doesn't quite get the attention I think it deserves, but...
Yeah, and it was like the first one that was a sequel, actually.
Yeah.
So that one was kind of like a blip on the radar because you get Little Mermaid, which became this giant success. Rescuers Down Under kind of dropped a little bit, and then you get Beauty and the Beast, which was just
also it was a return to form, which was like bringing back the fairy tale folklore aspect, which the original films Snow White and Cinderella. So now we're back to that again. Oliver and Company and all these other films, where did they come from? Were they original stories? Were they based on, children's books, that kind of thing?
Fox and the Hound and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, now we're back with the traditional fairy tale format here. So, yeah.
Yeah. So marrying that with the Broadway sensibilities of story and music, it just seemed to be like the perfect blend, because honestly, Don Bluth was like eating Disney's lunch with what he was doing. American Tail was a monster, and Don Bluth used to work for Disney. So it's not like that artwork it wasn't like Ralph Bakshi where it looked so weird and you didn't know what this was. Don Bluth was a Disney animator. So it looked like Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
Land Before Time. And I'm sure a lot of people weren't paying attention about who put what out as like, oh, Fievel, American Tail. Oh, Land Before Time with dinosaurs. So Don Bluth was really hitting it, and that kind of also inspired Disney to kind of get going again and get this stuff moving. So Beauty and the Beast was I don't want to be corny. You know what I'm going to say. It was a beast.
It was
a beast. It made Beauty and the Beast we'll talk worldwide. It made $443 million.
Yeah.
Put that up against Little Mermaid, which was an unqualified success. That only made 211 worldwide, and that was like the biggest grossing animated film.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty and the Beast doubles that.
Yeah.
Just absolutely crazy. And then a year later, in 92, Aladdin comes out and just really trounces that with $504 million.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the highest grossing film of 92, highest grossing animated film, really got the ball rolling for Disney, really kind of put them on the path.
Yeah.
They would follow it up with Lion, followed up with Lion King, which was the king. I mean, we'll call it, almost $1 billion, not $968 million in box office. Everything after that,
incredible.
Which is, it's just like, oh God, everybody saw Lion King. Everybody was crying. Everybody was happy at the end. And then the decline, this Renaissance era also includes Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan. So those films are also considered in the Renaissance of when they started to kind of come back. And Pocahontas, I really liked Pocahontas, actually. I love the art on it. I love the animation on it. It made $346 million. That would be, if any other animated film made that amount, I'm sure people would be ecstatic. But as far as like following The Lion King, it was kind of a miss.
Yeah.
And then Hunchback comes out.
There was a downward slope. Yep.
Starts the decline. And Hunchback comes out and it's like 325. Hercules comes out and it's like 253 million worldwide. Mulan comes out and Mulan does a little bit better. So you see a little blip in the chart going up a little bit at 304 million. And then Tarzan comes out and it actually almost catches Aladdin. It's 448 million. I didn't know Tarzan did that well.
Yeah, I like.
Was Tarzan. Not a big fan of that one.
No, I like that one. I love the story. It was an odd choice for a Disney film. So was Hunchback of Notre Dame. That
it wasn't crazy with the animation.
It was, but it was very true to the original story, which was very melodramatic and really dark. For a Disney film, it kind of, I think it kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. That one. Extremely problematic, and there's a lot of things going on in that film that are just bizarre.
Yeah, I'm going to be nitpicky. His feet looked too big. Tarzan. Like when I'm talking about these big. Yeah, I'm talking about Tarzan.
I'm talking about Hunchback.
I'm talking about Tarzan. I went back to Tarzan for some reason. Okay. I got it in for Tarzan.
Yeah, it was sort of like almost like a Mowgli vibe, right? He was trying to he's like lanky and kind of it wasn't the Tarzan you would expect, But I did enjoy.
It wasn't doing it for me.
Some of the, the Kurt, with the ape. It was Lance Henriksen did the voice for. I like that stuff, and when he was fighting I like the savage part of the stuff, but it really wasn't enough of that to satisfy me. I would rather see more of an adult animated version of Tarzan than a Disney. Again, very odd choice, but that was the sort of the decline of that.
Yeah, that would end the Renaissance right there.
Yeah,
Clements and Musker, oddly enough, though, after Hercules, they did Treasure Planet for Disney. Mm-hmm. They did Princess and the Frog, and then most recently they did Moana, which is a pretty big film. So they've been there at the beginning. They were there from Great Mouse Detective to Moana. So kudos to them of just staying relevant. They were in there in the glory days, and then they were in there through some of the tough times like Treasure Planet, and then Moana, which was a big hit also. So pretty
don't
good
forget
there.
Don't forget at this point they were competing with Pixar too. Yeah. Pixar was coming out. The 3D animation was starting to take over. So going back to that form of 2D with CG elements to it was that must have been tough. To actually make that decision. So
Well, Great Mouse Detective was actually the first film to do it. That was the first one that had CG elements in it. Mm-hmm. So again, go see Great Mouse Detective. Very understated. It's basically Sherlock Holmes with mice, which is really cool, but it's a great story.
You really love that movie, as far back as I can remember. You were always quoting from that one.
It's got Vincent Price. I mean, what
of course,
villain?
Yeah.
So that brings us to Aladdin. And it brings us to Robin Williams. Mm-hmm. Robin Williams had done Good Morning Vietnam for Touchstone, which is a Disney, affiliated studio. And that was a really big success for him. That was like a big movie, Good Morning Vietnam.
Mhm.
And as a thank you or a show of gratitude, he signed on to do this. He signed on to do Aladdin. And in order to convince him, the artists that were working on it got some footage of one of his stand-up routines and basically animated that, his rapid fire delivery and how he comes in and out of character. And that also helped convince him, like, wow, this is actually pretty closer to me than I am as a cartoon character. So that was
Yeah.
really instrumental in getting him on board. But he signed the agreement with Disney to have a very limited use of his likeness in the ads and his name in the ads. He didn't want
Yeah.
to overshadow everything.
Mhm.
It was in the contract where his likeness or the genie shouldn't be more than 25% of like the posters or advertising.
Right.
Yeah, Disney doesn't comply with that.
No,
If
of
you
course
look at
not.
any poster for Aladdin, the genie is gigantic. He is the thing. And how
There's
could you
money to
not?
be made. They're not gonna no, they're not of course they're not gonna comply.
How could you
So
not? I guarantee you, as they were shaking his hands, they had their fingers crossed and their
that's right.
toes crossed
Absolutely.
behind their back, saying, "Absolutely, Mr. Williams, we would
Right.
never make the genie bigger. 25% of this, sure, we won't make it that big. We won't use your likeness." Yeah, right.
And didn't he only did it for a really low amount of money too,
Yeah,
respectably.
yeah, yeah.
He
Because
yeah,
that
it
was
was
he was so grateful for Good Morning Vietnam
right,
that he's like, yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
let me do a favor here. And famously, as it famously goes, is his stuff was largely improv. They gave him some direction of what they were trying to get across with the story, and as you can see, yeah, that stuff you can't write.
No.
You
And
you
I
can't
felt
write it with his
I
stuff.
think the money that probably would have went to Robin Williams originally probably went to all those poor animators who worked overtime just to put in all those extra things that he was improvising, all those characters that were sort of made the little cameos throughout his performance, and so these guys were probably pulling their hair out with all this stuff. But
People probably
yeah,
excited too that it was a challenge and a
yeah,
fun challenge. So
yeah.
let's kind of just go roll. Let me roll through the plot really quickly,
Mhm.
just so we can kind of get uh, that stabilized. Basically, it's about Aladdin, who's a street urchin. They call him street rat, but he's a street urchin. I'll call him a street urchin.
Mhm.
He's got a heart of gold. He likes to, he helps people. He steals, but only to eat, only because he has to. He doesn't steal for any other gains. He actually steals and gives some kids some bread, and he goes hungry. And then there's also Princess Jasmine, who and Aladdin longs to be more than what he is. He doesn't want to just be someone who's living in the street. He thinks he's meant for something more. And then
Mhm.
you've got Princess Jasmine, who's the daughter of the Sultan, and she's tired of the pampered life and not being able to make her own decisions. She's being forced to marry, so she wishes that she could be something more. You see, the pattern is developing already.
Yes.
And then there's Jafar, who's the Grand Vizier for the Sultan, and he is looking for this magic lamp in the Cave of Wonders that will allow him to be something more than
Mhm.
what he is.
There's a
Okay,
theme. There's a
there's a
theme.
theme there. And so basically, what happens is Jafar fails in his first effort to get the lamp. Basically, Aladdin is the chosen one. He's the diamond in the rough, the only one that can go into the Cave of Wonders. So he basically gets into the Cave of Wonders. Things don't go as planned. Jafar doesn't get the lamp. Aladdin ends up with it, releases the genie. He wants to impress Princess Jasmine. There's a lot of things that go on in there about being yourself versus being someone else, pretending to be something.
Mhm.
They end up coming together. Jafar figures out who Aladdin really is. He's not this prince. Takes control of the lamp, and some really great animation there. I love when like that whole end thing is just chock full
Yeah.
of so much great
With the
animation.
cobra and yeah.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
Cobra
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Jafar as a genie is just amazing.
Mhm.
So basically, Aladdin has to use his smarts because he doesn't have access to the genie, so he has to rely on himself to solve the problem at the end, save the princess, defeat the bad guy, and save basically the Agrabah,
Mhm.
which he does. So that's the
But he,
plot in a nutshell,
one
because we're going to
thing,
go back through some of this stuff.
one thing you left out was the fact that he promised the genie that he would free the
He would
genie.
free him. And that's
Yes,
the other thing is
that's
the genie is trying to be something more than he is. So you've got this pretty solid
reoccurring.
recurring theme of change, and people are not happy with what they have, and want to be something more or something less. In Princess Jasmine's case, she doesn't want to be pampered, doesn't want to have all the jewels and stuff. She just wants to be herself. And Aladdin's self-worth is based on what he doesn't have, right? He thinks, well, if I have these things, I will be someone important. So they're both actually coming from opposite ends of the same problem, really, and meeting in the middle. And then you've got some great side characters. One of the things is each main character. So we'll go with Aladdin, Jasmine, and Jafar as the main characters. They each have like a sidekick animal.
Yeah.
Which is really, really neat. So Aladdin has Abu, which is like a monkey, who's just as an expert thief, or maybe even more so than Aladdin is. But he's very cantankerous. I guess he doesn't. He knows Aladdin, so he's not buying when he's trying to put on these airs of being something he's not. Like he really, Abu is like, he gets so angry. Jafar has Iago, who is voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. So you have another stand-up comedian in there. And Iago, to me, almost kind of says the things that Jafar would want to say, but doesn't. Like he really just kind of blurts out like no filter. Like Iago has like no filter. He just says whatever comes to his mind. And I think Jafar really feels that way, but just doesn't.
Well, to make the perfect pair, because you get that contemporary, sort of comedic. Those lines coming in, and because Jafar is he's the typical villain, the monologue, the long-winded, I am going to rule, and that kind of thing. And you're right, Iago just comes out with all the stuff that that people are laughing at, right? This is they're building up on that comedy aspect, so it works. It works like a charm. He's hilarious,
And there's some dark themes there also with what they talk about. But
right.
And then you have Princess Jasmine, and she's probably the first emotional support pet in animation is Raja, who looks a lot to me like Shere Khan from the original Jungle Book. A little bit, he looks like he could be like the nicer cousin of Shere Khan.
Yeah, okay.
He's kind of drawn in that style.
Tamest tiger I've ever seen.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what I said.
He's in the Masters of the Universe, the Scaredy Cat or whatever, that green tiger or whatever. But
Raja is very nice, but it seems like he's the better, well-adjusted relative of Shere Khan from Jungle Book. Kind of like not as angry, not as. He lives in a palace, so I think
he's pampered too, right? So so that whole thing. So
and they each play like a different role. Like Raja is very supportive and like kind of like is very affectionate or feels for Jasmine, and Iago is kind of like just the devil's advocate. He just kind of keeps pushing Jafar, like let's kill the father, let's kill the daughter, let's drop him off a cliff.
Well, it's the classic. It's the classic voice in the ear. It's like somebody's always. He's like almost like if he were a woman, he'd be the femme fatale. Like constant. He listen. Whispering in the person's ear, do this, do this, do this, and it's almost like he's putting Jafar under a spell, and he's the sorcerer. Yeah. Right. So it's and he actually does listen. He actually, you can tell he's actually thinking about this kind of stuff, and
because actually Iago is the one that also suggests that Jafar should marry Jasmine. So he's the one that's got the plan of you marry her, and then we'll kill him, and then you'll be the sultan by yourself. And then Abu is actually probably closest in kind of style or what they provide. He's almost like a partner to Aladdin, and Aladdin treats him pretty much like an equal. That whatever he does, he when Abu is upset or mad, he kind of is affected by that, and takes that because it's his only friend. And they've been through a lot, and they steal together, and it's only to live, and they kind of have that thing going on. But it seems like Abu is kind of on the same. Aladdin treats him on the same level, like as a friend, do we know
where Abu came from? Was there anything?
Well,
I'm kind of thinking.
yeah, no,
I'm kind of thinking the monkey from Raiders, Lost Ark. I
a
don't
little
know
bit.
why I keep going back there with that monkey, that smart little thing that was a little Nazi
Yeah, like
spy.
yeah, you know
You
what?
know.
It could be because there's one of the things I did notice when I was watching this
Mhm.
is how much the Aladdin scene had in common with Raiders. And I've seen this movie dozens of times, and it
Yeah.
never really hit me. And it actually, when I'm watching it, the one part that really hit me, obviously, when Aladdin goes in, that's just an amazing scene. Just that CG of the tiger, the Cave of Wonders, and he
Yeah.
opens his mouth, and
Yeah.
it's
Gorgeous.
kind of
Yeah.
it's threatening because the first guy that went in was not
Was not
not the
alive.
diamond in the rough. He
Right.
was just rough. He was just rough. So he got he got killed like in the first 5 minutes.
Hmm.
People, this movie really rated G. I don't understand.
My
Because
youngest son pointed that out. Believe it or not, this movie's rated G because we were watching it, and he made that comment. There's
yeah,
no way
that
this
guy
is rated G.
that
So
guy gets killed in the beginning.
yeah,
Kazim, lowly thief, he's dead. Robin Williams, the genie, talks up. He slices his head off when he says, "I can't kill people," and he slices his head off and puts it back on. Aladdin gets thrown off a cliff with a ball and chain
right.
attached to his legs, and to drown, and he almost drowns.
Hmm.
Iago talks about killing the Sultan and Jasmine.
Hmm.
It's just, and then the fight at the end is kind of frightening. I would think that whole serpent fight
Yeah.
would be kind of frightening for children, especially when it was a person and he turns into the serpent and Aladdin stabs him a couple times.
Pretty intense. Yeah.
Yeah, the violence factor on this is, I think, it's pretty high, and the
Mhm.
scare factor, as fun as it is and as funny as it is, for kids, I think there's a little bit of a scare factor here.
Yeah.
This was kind of like, so what brought me back to Indiana Jones is when Aladdin gets the lamp and Abu takes takes one of the gems and everything starts falling apart. Well, that's a reminder of when Indy took the idol,
The idol,
right?
right? Yep.
And everything starts falling apart. But then Aladdin gets to the entrance to the Cave of Wonders, and Jafar's in disguise, and Aladdin's like, "Give me your hand," and Jafar's like, "Give me the lamp."
Right.
And Aladdin's like, "Give me your hand," and he's like, "No, give me the lamp." Well, we know where that came from. Throw me the idol, I throw you the
That's
whip.
right. That's right. Yep.
Right? Throw
Yep.
me the idol, and they did it twice. Like, throw me the idol, I'll throw you a whip. And then and the same exact thing happened, right? He gave Indy gave Sapito the idol, and what did he do? He dropped the whip.
He dropped
and
the
walked
whip.
away.
And yeah, ha 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 ha, you're dead. You
Adios,
fool.
adios,
You
senor.
idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happens here. Is Aladdin hands the lamp over to Jafar, and Jafar is going to give you your reward, your eternal reward, and that's a knife.
Right.
Which again, he was going to kill him.
Right. Yep.
There is no shortage of like threat going on in this movie.
Nope.
Surprisingly lighthearted with all that alternating, but that whole scene with the Cave of Wonders, for me, straight out of Indiana Jones in a good way. It took me this many years to realize it. So you know what? I didn't at that time think, oh, they're ripping this off. It was just really well done.
Oh, it's a nice nod, but it's not exact, but it's definitely knows where it's coming from. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and you know what? No, there's no better material to use than to kind of get that. And then you've got Robin Williams, who just I don't even know how they thought of using him, or why they thought adding pop culture references. That's a big gamble, because if you look at like Beauty and the Beast and you look at Little Mermaid and everything, those are like traditional films, meaning they work with the source material and they stay within that realm, right?
Yeah,
Beauty and the Beast, they had the Broadway, the songs and all that stuff, and Little Mermaid, but they stayed within the realm and the universe. Let's put it that way. They stayed within the universe of Little Mermaid, stayed within the universe of Beauty and the Beast. Robin Williams and maybe that's what just goes off and starts hitting pop culture reference after pop culture reference and impression after impression, and you almost can't keep up with it. And it works.
Was how many impressions did he actually do? I think it was like 52 was like the
There's a
final count.
ton.
Yeah.
There was even more that they didn't even animate.
Mm.
There was a ton, but what it did is it made these types of movies accessible for adults, as opposed to parents that bring their kids to go see Little Mermaid and they sit there and they watch it because they're taking their kid to it. Aladdin is for as much for adults as it is for children, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
it started working on that level
Hmm.
of Robin Williams was doing, kids at that age don't know who Groucho Marx is. They do not know who Ed Sullivan is at that age.
Right.
That's squarely for adults,
Yeah.
um, and it was brilliant.
Hmm.
It was absolutely brilliant.
And adults of an older time too. Funnily enough, it's you're talking about people from the 40s and the 50s when this kind of thing was popular, like musicals and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
in a way, he was kind of catering to that. I don't know if it was a direction from Menken and and the music team, but kind of give him that little nod saying that. But I don't know. But I mean, I'm sure
I
there was
think they just let
probably.
him go.
I'm sure there's dozens of other things that he did, but they probably picked, cherry picked the best, and stayed true to that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
I think they wound him up and just let him go and said, just go. Like honestly, like just go, do your thing, and we'll figure it out. And it was absolutely brilliant. And the songs in this film also, they follow that Broadway aesthetic. They give you information, but they're really good. I really like these. Pretty much all these songs. I
Mhm.
like. It starts off with the Arabian Nights one, which it's a short one, but it kind of gets you, gets the story set. They actually had to change some of the lyrics because there is a fair amount of controversy that surrounds
Sure.
this film
Yeah.
as far as the depiction of stereotypes and that type of a thing. And actually, if you watch the movie now on like Disney Plus, there's actually a disclaimer in the beginning of the movie saying, "Hey, there's some things that it wasn't right now, it wasn't right then,
Yeah.
but we're leaving them in so we can kind of have some discussion about it and kind of be cognizant of it." So there was that, but then you get Aladdin's song, which describes his backstory. That song, One Step,
Mhm.
it really just like there's a line in it about not having parents or not having a mother. So you're getting information from these songs. It's not just okay, we're going to stop the movie and we're just going to sing a song.
Mhm.
That song really, he says how he steals. He's got to eat to live and live to eat. Um, so they're giving you information in addition to entertaining.
Yeah.
And then you've got A Friend Like Me, which is like a certified showstopper. I don't know anybody who doesn't love that song and doesn't love watching that part of the film because it's just so energetic. It's so dynamic. Robin Williams delivers he's able to do like he brings something that only he can bring because he's doing also like different voices and kind of impressions within the song,
Mhm.
and they're animating that. And
Mhm.
then I just love the music. I love the incidental music in this movie too, where they just have those little just highlights of when something is going on. It's just like really got a classic score.
Mhm.
And then you go to Prince Ali, which is another great one where he has used his first wish to become a prince, and he's making his entrance into Agrabah, and that's just a great song also, and you get more Robin Williams there doing some more impressions like the parade commentators,
Yeah.
and then he's throughout the crowd doing everything. So they're really using him to good effect. And then of course the hit from this is A Whole New World,
Yeah.
which everybody probably a ton of wedding songs.
Mhm.
I'm gonna guess. Not
It,
not
it,
mine.
it's a night.
Not mine.
Well, no, but it is a. Of course, it's a. This is for all the women out there. This is a beautiful scene. They're going pretty much all over the world, right? And this. Oh, we failed to mention. How could we forget carpet? We didn't. We
Yeah.
didn't say anything about carpet, and that's the most important part of that scene is that they're riding the magic carpet,
Yeah.
which was pretty much animated. It was full on CG, was it not?
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
they overlaid the carpet design
Yeah.
afterwards. And that was actually a tough thing. They had to figure out how to make a character out of something pretty much flat with tassels.
Just a
I think they
character,
did a
but
good
like an
job.
emotional character that's showing you like it's showing you emotion, and it's showing you like, just it's cowering, it's doing all these things that a person would do. I often think of like when I watch Doctor Strange, the Marvel film. I think the
The
cloak.
cape.
I'm instantly taken. It's the magic carpet from Aladdin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Definitely has a some relationship to the magic carpet.
mhm.
And that's a challenge, is to, you got to hand it to these guys too. We take it for granted. Oh, the carpet. Yeah. He's like sulking, and he's kind of like hunched over. And then when he's asked to come back, he's excited. And,
So much expression.
um, they had to figure that out. And then how do you use the tassels, use them as
Yeah.
hands, and
Mhm.
use them as feet? It was just brilliant. There's just so much going on with this,
I know.
Um, another classic Disney trope
Mhm.
that is in this film is the one parent. It's the child with one parent.
Yeah.
Say there was the same thing as in Beauty and the Beast. Just the dad is there. That seems to be something, either no parents or one parent. You don't ever see two parents.
And the parent is usually somewhat eccentric, somewhat. In this case,
In those two movies, they were. Yeah. In
in this
Beauty and the
case, he's
Beast,
kind of goofy. He's kind of like, he's easily put under Jafar's spell. He's putting him under, telling him what to do, and he's just. But all he wants, that this is such a sweet guy that all he cares about is his daughter's happiness, and But there's this rule where she has to get married at a certain age, which I guess in some cases would I don't know. Is that controversial? Is that a thing? Is
well,
that a
they
trope?
took out they took out the reference to it. They just said she
Okay.
had to get married by her birthday, but
Right.
originally there was an age restriction, like you have to
Okay.
be married by this.
Yes.
And they said, you know what, let's just say your next birthday. So they leave it more general. And you're right, the father is kind of goofy. And if you look at Beauty and the Beast, the father was eccentric also. He's like an inventor, and he was kind of a goof, and didn't have his, didn't seem like he was totally with it. So
Mhm.
again, it just seems like those.
They both look like
It's like
Weebles.
it's just like a classic
Roly
Disney.
poly. Yeah.
I think Lion King had parents. I think that was the most recent one where,
But
Simba had both parents.
one of them dies, though.
Well, yeah, but
Right?
at least you got them
It's
on
either
screen for a little
you're
bit.
either killing the parents off, or or there's only one or none.
There was
Yeah.
one that was killed off screen. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's maybe just too many characters to have to juggle. It automatically gives you sympathy for the characters, right? If there's there's
Sure.
just a dad, or there's just a mom. So I think it's also maybe a plot device that automatically builds sympathy for these characters. Aladdin has no family, just Abu. So you immediately feel for him that he's on his own and left to his own devices. And Jasmine um, only has her father, and he actually says a kind of a funny line when they're talking about her getting married. And he's like, your mother wasn't so picky, which means I mean, he's basically kind of going down, like kind of down on himself. He goes, well, she wasn't so picky picking somebody. Look, she picked me.
Well, I think it also implies that
About that.
it might have been like an arranged thing too.
Could be.
You know,
Could be.
which
I took
again
it
they
as,
didn't really go there, but it's not so obvious. But maybe that's what they're hinting at there.
yeah, I took
Yeah.
it as what, she just look at me, she picked me, and she wasn't too picky, and just, so why are you being this way? Your
Yeah,
mother
yeah.
wasn't.
Right.
So it was good. So that was just all those different things you have going on in Aladdin. So you've got a story about people that want to change. You've got some dark elements. You have extreme comedy too, and there's really is a balance between it. They really, you don't realize until you start picking the movie apart, like these dark pieces that are in there. You really don't realize it because they really just they keep the story moving along. They don't drill Robin Williams into the ground. Like he makes a really big splash, and then he kind of gets pulled back actually.
That's right. Yeah.
Once kind of Aladdin becomes Prince Ali, he's more of an advisor. He's not totally going crazy all the time, so they know when to not overstay their welcome with him,
Mhm.
which is also too. It could have gone from really gimmicky to really annoying very quickly. But the fact that they kind of gave you less is more, and you wanted more, and they didn't give it, I think is a better choice, because then in the second half it falls into a more traditional storytelling. Even though Robin Williams is outside of that, he gets a Jack Nicholson impression in also. But
Yeah.
but those they use them a little more sparingly and more cleverly, and don't keep just saying, here we're just going to keep letting him go, and it'll just be a movie of Robin Williams improv that we animate.
And then he's also used to great effect, though. If you notice, while he's giving Aladdin his his wishes, he's also guiding him through this stuff. Like, he's telling him, like, be yourself, right? You need to win her. Just, why do you got to go through all this? Be yourself. So he's actually giving him those little lessons in there too, which a genie, genie certainly wouldn't do. And I guess in the traditional tale, like, you give him your wishes and that's it. Here he's actually helping Aladdin. Aladdin's not really listening.
Yeah, there's definitely a friendship there that develops,
right?
Which kind of it pays off in the end, because basically, you've got Aladdin. They try and basically assassinate Aladdin, right? They chuck him off the cliff, and he gets out of that. And then Jafar basically says, "You know what? The only way we're going to do this is we've got to steal the lamp." So Iago gets the lamp. And then Jafar gets the power. Basically, tries to kill him again.
Yeah,
right.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite part when he's like when Iago is like, "Excellent work, Iago," and he's like imitating Jafar. It's a whole that got a laugh out of me.
Basically patting himself on the back for a job well done that he probably would not get from Jafar anyway. I don't think Jafar would do that.
All he wants is approval. He wants to be respected as a villain. That's his motivation, But
it's just that pairing is just so great, because it's just like they're just so rotten, and I don't know if one's rotten. They're both rotten in different ways. One is Jafar is more like conniving, and Iago is just more straight out. He'll tell, like, he's not conniving. He'll tell. He just kind of says what he wants to do. It's like, well, kill her. I want to.
Well, it kind of it's almost parallel to Aladdin and the genie, right? I just mentioned before, like, the genie's like, kind of whispering in his ear, be yourself, and trying to advise him. All Iago's are doing the same thing, but in the evil way, like, so
in the worst way.
It's the perfect, yin yang there, so.
Yeah. So Aladdin gets like launched off into like the Arctic somewhere by Jafar after Jafar gets the lamp, and he basically exposes Aladdin, says this guy is not a prince. He says it to Jasmine. Aladdin was going to try and tell her. Mm-hmm. He was going to try and tell her, but obviously the lamp got stolen beforehand. So we go off on another tangent of the story, and Aladdin gets kind of sent out by Jafar, and Jafar now has control of the genie. And I love what they do with the animation, how the genie looks different. He's darker. He had like a lighter blue kind of coloring when he was with Aladdin. He was bright, yeah. And now he's dark. His eyes are all white. Mm-hmm. He's bigger. Even though he's doing things against his will, he's more menacing because he's so much larger, and he takes on. I guess that's the thing, is he kind of takes on the tendencies or personality traits of who his master is at the time. So even though he's not happy about it, he's like oversized and gigantic, and and it's just real. I just love that animation, because they really just change him up and make him look different. So you really get he's not like the goofy genie. He's a product of who his master is.
Mm-hmm. The thing that's striking, that the colors in this movie are very striking. The blues, and there aren't really, if you really look at it, there really aren't that many colors being employed here. There's still the very traditional, still very much in that mode of using just so many colors, but they use them to such great effect.
Yeah, everybody has a palette. Jafar's got the reds and the blacks, and some of the golds. Genie's got the blues, and Jasmine has.
When he's the prince, he's all white, and that kind of
Yeah, so he matches like the Sultan's palette, and Jasmine is pretty much always in like the jade or turquoise kind of bluish green, and they stick to that. And Iago is red, just like Jafar, in that same, not the same exact color palette, but you see that they they pretty much match. And Abu matches Aladdin as far as they wear the same type of fez. It's just
Right.
smaller, and they got the vest on. So yeah, they it's just Disney is just so good at subliminally giving you all this stuff and letting you know who's who, just by the palette they're choosing and the colors, and the and shapes were very important in this one, where the father was kind of dumpy and roly poly, and Jafar is sleek and thin, and his lines are much more defined and curved.
Mm-hmm.
You get that, and when you look at the palace, when the Sultan's in charge, the pillars are kind of roly poly and dumpy, and there's like a lot of elephants used in the art. And then when Jafar takes over, it has a totally different look to it. It more matches his art direction, what they were doing with him. So I just
That's right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just so brilliant. And that animation is just so great. And that the end scene, starting when Jasmine gets put into the hourglass.
Yeah.
Just like that pretty much starts like the climax, where things just really get going, because the threat is there, and Jafar, ever power hungry, basically gets played. Aladdin has no powers; he only has his wits, and he used his wits on the genie, and that was kind of like the tell, is he got the genie to give him a free wish in the beginning.
That's right.
Because he had nothing but his wits about him, so they kind of give you the indication that he's not just this. He's pretty clever, and he was able to say to the genie, "Well, you know what? I don't think you're really that powerful. You've got limitations. You probably can't even get us out of the cave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're really not all that." So what does the genie do? He says, "Well, I'll show you." Gets him out of the cave, and then Aladdin's like, "Okay, about those wishes."
Oh no, you already used one. He's like, I didn't
Nope.
ask for a wish. You did that. He's like, what?
Yeah. So you get the indication that Aladdin is pretty clever, but he really kind of sells himself short.
Well, he has to be living on the street. He's got to be one step ahead, right? That's part of the song too. It's one of the lyrics.
Absolutely. But it's just not enough for him. But it comes into play at the very end, because Jafar has the genie, and the first wish is to become Sultan. So he becomes the Sultan, takes over, and then
that's not good.
Not good enough. What's the next level for that?
The ultimate sorcerer.
Yeah.
So he's got more power.
The world's most powerful sorcerer. So now he can not only rule, but he can make people do things. And one of the things he tries to do is tries to make Jasmine fall in love with him. Since he's a sorcerer, he's going to put the spell on her. But he asks the genie to do it. And the genie's like, well, I can't do it. And Jafar's like, slave, you're going to do what I want. And ask her to fall madly in love. And Aladdin comes in and basically tricks Jafar, saying, you know what, you're really not the most powerful. The genie is. The genie's more powerful than you, because he's the one that can grant the wish. Sucker.
And then Jafar's like,
Jafar walks right into it.
Yeah, he's right. I wish to be an all-powerful genie. And
and that animation is just so, I love it. He like, when he changes and he goes like up into the night sky, and he's like, tossing like atoms around, and you see like the universe behind him.
It's like,
reminds me a little bit of Fantasia. I get kind of feeling of some of the
you're right. That was you're absolutely Fantasia. Right, and I think that was probably intentional. I honestly think that was intentional. Yep.
Yeah, and I just love that. It was just like, oh my God, it's just you're getting cartoony animation with the genie when he's in his genie mode, like regular genie mode. And then you get this like the serious animation when they need to. And I just really love how they just kind of, they're not afraid to switch it up and give it a little more menace. They didn't keep everything jokey and make it a jokey, mean genie. I mean, Jafar as a genie was really kind of threatening. Yeah. And actually,
the whole time he's the dark cloud, right? In the whole movie, like he doesn't really change. Well, I mean, he's the constant man. Something's amiss. Something's going to happen. He's going to transform into something greater or more disturbing, or at some point He just has it. You could from the very first frame. You look at his face. He's already done. He really pretty much already does that when he's disguising himself as the cripple in the thing, and that itself was creepy. Like he's wearing a mask. He's so he's a master manipulator. He's a master. He's going to transform into something much more menacing, much more disturbing, more.
Yeah, and actually, before the genie, he transformed into the serpent. Yeah. So he was, let me show you how snake-like I can be, and he transforms into this giant serpent and just threatening and hideous. And Aladdin's battling him, and then that's when Aladdin says, "Well, you're still just second best." And so he goes from the serpent to the genie, right? And then that's when he learns the. With ultimate power comes itty bitty living space, right? Unlimited power, itty bitty living space. So that pretty much like ties it up for Jafar, and not really though, because they would start to make sequels to these films, and that's really where Disney started to kind of, I think with Aladdin, they started to realize that at that time, home video was becoming a big thing, and movies on VHS were people buying them was a gigantic thing. So we have Aladdin, but then we're making our next film, The Lion King. But you know what? People love Aladdin, so let's make a direct-to-video release.
Mm-hmm. Not one, but two.
Not one, but two. So that they did make a sequel called The Return of Jafar. Mm-hmm. And Robin Williams was like, well, no, you guys, kind of screwed me over. So I'm going to take a pass on this. Like you guys did me wrong. So they got Dan Castellaneta to do it, the voice of the genie. Yeah. And if you don't know who he is, well, you do know who he is, because he is Homer Simpson, mm-hmm. and a multitude of other voices on The Simpsons. He tried his level best. First of all, the animation is going to be from like the TV division. It's subpar animation, so you're not getting the greatest launch right there. And then you've got Dan Castellaneta as the genie, so you're already losing that. And then they're going to try and recapture that, which is kind of tough. And then they kind of mended fences with Robin Williams. They apologized and said, "We're really sorry for doing what we did to you. Mm-hmm. Please come back." And then he came back. In Aladdin and the Prince of Thieves, he came back as the genie.
Yeah.
So there was those two.
Which was that? I mean, again, certainly the animation didn't improve all that much on that second release, but that was the big draw, was having Robin Williams back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's back. He's back.
I think that probably did a little bit better than the Return of Jafar did. I think.
Yeah, because they had an advertising gimmick, an advertising angle. Yeah, and then that. They parlayed that into an Aladdin series. So that kind of started the cottage industry of, we get a big film and then we go direct to video with the sequels. So we don't have to keep making the feature film. We can still keep our feature film schedule of whatever we were doing and not be bogged down by having to do another, theater worthy sequel. Mm-hmm. We could just start pumping these out, because that's what started. Then they made sequels to Beauty and the Beast. They started making sequels to Little Mermaid, Lion King Half.
Pretty much every movie.
Every classic that came out after that started getting direct-to-video sequels. And those things sold. That was just a cash cow for them. Mm-hmm. Whether you agree with it or not, it was just undeniable. You go to a video store and you'd see, Aladdin, then you'd see three other things after it, branded Aladdin. And then you'd see Pocahontas, and Pocahontas had a couple of other stories, and Beauty and the Beast had a Christmas one, and smart on them and good on them, but it also, I think, watered down the product a little bit. Started to kind of
absolutely. It
started to kind of kill it,
overkill. And now, unfortunately, they're starting to. Somebody decided we need to do live action versions. Did you see the remake of Aladdin? I did not.
I felt it was my duty to watch it. So, because
I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's one thing. So yeah, they started to redo the classic Disney films as, well, I'll put it, I say quote unquote live action, because they redid The Jungle Book was the first one. Mm-hmm. Quote unquote live action. Obviously, most of it's CG. Obviously, Mowgli was a person, but that's one thing. Then they did Dumbo. Mm-hmm. They did Lady and the Tramp. They did Lion King. And those, you can kind of get away with, right? And then they do Aladdin. And it's like, well, you've got a built-in problem. You have a built-in problem because Robin Williams is so melded, and I hate to overuse the word iconic, but he's so iconic to that role. It's almost like someone trying to play the Joker. It's like it's a thankless job. You can't, you almost can't, because what he did was so the genie character was so tied to what Robin Williams did. It's not like, Robin Williams just did the voice and he read the lines.
Well, he
created
actually that character.
They created the character around it. They animated around him.
That's right.
Which you don't see, and that actually started the whole thing of with the celebrity voice casting. But to go back to the live action Aladdin, they get Guy Ritchie to direct it, and he's done a lot of action films, which I thought was an odd choice for a Disney film.
Very, very odd choice.
And then the casting comes out of everyone's waiting, like, who's going to play the genie? Who's it going to be? And they get Will Smith. And you know what? When I saw the trailer, I'm like, ugh, I don't know how this is going to work. And again, he had a thankless job. Will Smith is off the cuff, and he's funny, and he kind of plays the character of Will Smith, right? Kind of the snarky. And the movie kind of came and went, and I didn't give it any more thought. And then when I watched Aladdin a couple of times in preparation for this, I have Disney Plus. So it's there. And I said, well, I think I need to watch this to do my due diligence for our listeners. I couldn't finish it.
Really? That bad?
I couldn't finish it. The beginning was good. Up until the genie, actually. I loved the set pieces. I just loved the beginning. They did it really well. They did Agrabah really well. They did Aladdin really well, and him running through, and actually Abu. You said that Abu looks like the monkey in Indiana Jones. Well, they used that same type of monkey.
Okay. So
it's kind of cool. And Iago is there, and he does talk, but he's more of a parrot, just kind of repeating things. So it was kind of neat. I'm like, okay, I kind of dig this. And they did change a couple of plot points, which was unnecessary for some reason. And Jafar is much more power hungry, much more like they got a chance to develop him a little bit more. And I'm kind of like, all right, this isn't too bad.
Was it more or less a shot for shot? Much like
no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they changed a lot of some plot points to make it a little bit different. Okay. So it was not shot for shot, and they like how they found Aladdin, like in the animated film, he needed the blue diamond, Jafar, and he put it into his like machine, and that would reveal it. So weird in the remake, the live action remake, like Iago's like looking out the window and sees like Aladdin like breaking into the palace and says, "That's the diamond in the rough." I'm like, how do you know? Like there was no like determination that he was like a chosen one or anything. So it's kind of weird. The stuff in the Cave of Wonders pretty much follows the same type of thing. But then when you get to Will Smith, and the problem I had, and it was what I was afraid of, is when it comes time to do Friend Like Me, because they do Friend Like Me, that's a showstopper. That song is a centerpiece and a showstopper. And Will Smith is not a singer. He raps, but he's not a singer. And you need someone that's going to deliver like the oomph to it. And maybe go check it out. Maybe you tell me, just go check out that part. And it just didn't have it for me. And you can't help, unfortunately, but compare it to Robin Williams. So he had a thankless job. It was really tough. I got through it. They did something wonky with the wish about how he got out. They played with that a little bit, and it didn't make sense because they didn't really have to. And then they get out, and he becomes Prince Ali, just to keep it short, because this is where I turned it off. Will Smith kind of goes into regular Will Smith. He disguises himself. He's not like a genie, just kind of like the way Robin Williams does. So he looks like Will Smith in a large part of the movie. But he was kind of like, did you ever see that movie? Did you see the movie Hitch with him?
Yeah.
He was like Hitch, because all he did the rest of the time was just like be behind Aladdin and giving him dating advice and like, oh, don't mess this up. This is a party. I want to go have fun and go do that. And it was almost like just like he was just kind of giving dating advice. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. So it kind of lost me after that. I'm like, it would have been, I would have been more engaged if they had removed the genie and called this movie something else. Because I actually liked it. I actually was enjoying the first part of it because I just loved the sets. I just loved the music and all that stuff. But take out the genie, call it something else, and you probably had a better movie, I think, because it's just so connected to Robin Williams, and unfortunately, Robin Williams has it in his will that his likeness can't be used, and any of that stuff from Disney can't be used for 25 years.
Yeah, I read that.
Because I was thinking to myself, well, why didn't they just get like his lines or something and then animate somebody to it? Don't get an actor, but use him, use his voice. Don't, it doesn't have to look like him, but use his lines and animate it. And that was why.
I'm guessing it had a more contemporary feel though. The music wasn't quite big band.
No,
it was more, so, I'm thinking more.
The music was like hip hop. No, the music was more traditional. Like that song "One Step" was the same.
Okay.
But then they had like the traditional like score for Middle Eastern music, which I really liked. It had that exotic sound to it.
Yeah.
Friend Like Me was more. Yeah, it was kind of a little rappy. It was a little more contemporary. I didn't have a problem with that, but it's just the delivery. I'm watching and I'm like, I'm not really getting excited about this. I'm not buying it. Whereas Robin Williams' delivery was so punchy, and so impassioned, and so big, and it was it brought the house down, that song in the middle of the movie. And for this one, it just didn't do it. I'm like, it was just kind of lackluster. So it kind of deflated me a little bit, and I'm like, all right, let me stay with it. But we're spending too much time on it.
Yeah. So not recommended.
Maybe as a curiosity watch.
Yeah.
If you want to see what it's like I said, there are some good, I love the casting. I love the casting of Princess Jasmine. I love the casting of Jafar and Aladdin. I liked all that stuff. And Raja was a CG tiger. He really looked like Shere Khan in the remake of the Jungle Book.
Overall, I just as a comment about that, to me, I just don't feel it necessary to make live action versions of these classics. I don't understand. I mean, I know it's all, pretty much a money grab at least for me. I just don't, and it's all the work that goes into these things too, but why? Why need to do it?
I think they do it because they can.
Other things, probably.
Because
I don't, I give kudos to Jon Favreau for, Lion King and Jungle Book. He did a great job with those films. But again, I just didn't feel like they needed to be made.
Yeah, it is a way of introducing it to new, do you want to say kids today? It's like, oh, kids today. But, kids today are used to CG and they're used to seeing hyper reality like in the Marvel films. Mm-hmm. So maybe, you know what, let's update Lion King because it is animated and maybe it looks like Nickelodeon or something you'd see. So it's like, okay, you know what? We've got the technology. We've got the ability. Let's do it. And I don't really have a problem with it because Lion King and Jungle Book are animated like features with mainly animals. So you're not trying to replace like faces per se, and Lady and the Tramp also. So I'm a little more okay with that. Aladdin was really the thing I was kind of concerned about.
Yeah.
And they're making a Lilo and Stitch live action too.
Are you kidding?
That's on the horizon. No. Yeah. They're making that. That could be weird. That could be very strange. That could be frightening. Lilo and Stitch is one of my favorite Disney films.
As long as they keep the Elvis thing going.
That could be frightening though. If they make him live action and like the monster that he is, they have to, like, they can't, I don't know. That's just too much. But
we'll see.
But Aladdin is it just harkens back to a time in where these movies were gigantic, where these animated films, it just started like the role that Disney went on, and everybody came along for the ride. Everybody was getting excited about Beauty and the Beast. Adults and children alike were excited for these films. And that's, I think, what drove the box office, is that the parents wanted to go.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're going to go see it. And then word of mouth. And it's like, you got to go see this. It's not just a kid's film. And they were able to carry that through with like the Shakespearean tragedy of The Lion King, where, I was there and I went to go see that. And I'm like, oh my God, holy crap. I can't believe, again, I'm not sure kids should be watching this one, and so Disney really was able to, they struck gold and they were able to really mine it for quite a few years until it kind of, Pixar, you've got Toy Story, another arm of Disney kind of working and bringing those other things out like Bugs Life
which by the way are just exceptional. I mean, most of them. I mean, I don't think there's a bad one in the lot. As far as Pixar.
But that ended up doing, up kind of doing in traditional animation, and in favor of the CG and technology just moved that way. So this was the heyday.
With that return to form that I mentioned before, just harkens back to the animation of the early days, the 1940s, the layering. Yeah. My favorite film of all time is Pinocchio. That's my favorite animated Disney film, but quite possibly my favorite animated film, period. The animation in that is just extraordinary for its time.
And Pinocchio makes an appearance.
Yeah.
In Aladdin as a very brief cameo.
But those things that I found in especially like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, that sense of giving that 3D effect of the layering. You get, the foreground of the building or the window, and you're looking out, and there's this. God, it's just so detailed and so. It's just it's so good. I don't even know how they did it. It's amazing to even go behind the scenes and watch them. You see the going page by page and putting the pages on top of the other, and this was the way to do it. Man.
You know what? Kudos to Disney though. If you stay for the credits and you watch the credits for Aladdin, they give you the character. So they'll say, okay, Iago, Gilbert Gottfried. And then right after it, they listed the artist that worked on it.
Yes.
So when I was watching it now, I'm like, I probably didn't notice it back then or was like, whatever. Kudos to Disney for putting those artists as much as a part of the character as the voice, even more so, right? Because they have to animate that voice. So when you get Gilbert Gottfried, you have to animate him. So you see, they'll give you the who voiced Jafar, and then right below it were the lead artists on it. And I really actually respected that from Disney, that they had the foresight to really understand that it's not just the voice, because that's the easy ways you get the stunt casting, you get all these celebrities, and that's how you sell the film, because that's what started happening afterwards. But it was the artists that did all this work and brought them to life.
And the fact that they have 2-3 artists to a character is astounding to me. It's like you're literally bringing this character to life, and that's why you need 2 or 3 artists to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's just a wonder. Yep. And it's just from just like I said, a classic era of Disney film of productivity, of inspiration. They were just firing on all cylinders. They had people working on project after project, leapfrogging, and one was in production and they were already talking about another, getting lyricists working on it. Just a very prolific period, and it paid off not only for Disney, but I think it paid off just for lovers of film, because you got really high quality animated films that anybody could go see. And each one was different. It wasn't that they weren't retreading the same formula over and over, which was so key. Little Mermaid, different. Rescuers Down Under, different. Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas. They were just going for just different styles, different looks too. Each one had a different type of aesthetic that they weren't afraid to roll the dice on those things, and they had the ability to, because they had the audience built in and bought in and along for the ride.
You didn't even need to. You didn't even need to know what the film was about necessarily. You didn't care, because there was such succession of just those first 3 or 4 films made you want to keep going. And I pretty much did. After Lion King, I saw pretty much all of those others in the theater. I did see I did see Tarzan in the theater. I saw Hercules in the theater, as I recall. Yeah. And you just didn't care. Because again, like you were saying, the different styles, you just wanted to see how different is this going to be from the other.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
It was a great time. It really
Yeah.
was. The
And
whole decade.
watching it now, it's usually when we get to the end, we talk about has this film aged.
I think a point's been made.
I actually think it's gotten better. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it now more when I watched it. I was just able to just kind of maybe a little bit of a nostalgia, but just kind of remember
Hmm.
how great these films were, how quickly they were coming out, and how much quality was behind them. Uh, and you kind of miss that. It's easy to get desensitized with all the CG and the Marvel stuff and all the computer stuff that's so hyper realistic that you almost take it for granted, or it was a simpler time, but the quality was there, and the passion was there, and it didn't make a difference if it didn't look like a person exactly.
Hmm.
The story was there, and the work ethic was there. So
Well, these movies were meant to last, and
and they have.
that's again, going back to the old formula, the legends, the classics. They release them for a limited time. Remember that, and then they go away for a while, and they be re-released again, and in this case, a different format each time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah,
but
they would just keep recycling the money.
the level of sophistication and the talent, and literally that used to be the thing. It was like these movies they're supposed to transcend the
Yeah,
generations.
and these absolutely have. Now, to close out, do you think a suitable for little kids?
I wouldn't have given it a G rating. Um, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I think with the comedic aspect of it, I think really what's pretty much puts that over the top. I
Mhm.
think there were some scary elements to it, and I think they did a pretty decent job of um, word of mouth. I think not so much the rating, but the word of mouth. I think critics at the time were basically telling people that as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely not a G rating. That was an odd choice. Most of these movies were PG,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
now,
Well,
I
they got
mean, I was like PG-13. Some of them,
yeah.
but
Well, they certainly got away with it on Aladdin. I'll
yeah.
tell you that much.
And
So
again, I think it was the comedy. It was just that just put it right over the top. They figured, well, this is a goofy. It's funny, and it was. It was laugh out loud funny. It was just
yeah,
fun
yeah, it gave
for
you
the most
everything. It
part.
was a,
Yeah,
it was rollicking adventure
yeah,
and comedy, music, and story,
yeah.
and a moral to the story too is be yourself. So important.
One of the
Well,
greats. So,
yeah,
mhm.
absolutely. This is if we have like a vault, and if we have some classics that we're going to induct, I think Aladdin's going to be a shoo-in for a first round ballot. I honestly think that.
Sure. Yeah.
But so that's going to do it for the 3324 podcast. Thank you so much for taking the ride with us. We've been talking about Aladdin, the 1992 animated version, not to be confused with the live action one, which we hit on. But as always, check us out on social media. We thank you for your support. It means so much to us. You can check us out on any of your favorite podcast providers. And we'll also be putting video up on YouTube a couple of weeks after we debut the episodes online. As always, for Eric, I'm Dean, and we always want to ask you to please be kind and rewind.
Take care, guys.